Hey guys, this is Woodworker Royer, and today I'm going to do a short video on basically me cleaning up this mess here. I've got a little bit wider angle, on my phone than normal. We're at 0.5 zoom instead of 0.8 zoom, so if stuff looks kind of weird, that's why. Although actually this doesn't look too terrible. It's not distorted as much as normal fisheye things are. Oh, great, that thing. Well, anyway, my Tight Bond bottle got left open, and the glue inside hasn't dried quite yet, but the nozzle no longer works because that is dried. It's junk. By the way, I didn't post this yet, but I got a Buckaroo tool belt. This is not it, obviously. This is a bag that it came with. But I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do to keep all the tools and everything on the belt, because the bags that I have are kind of junk. I mean, they're not junk. They're actually perfectly fine. The only problem is that they're kind of floppy because they're fabric. They're Husky brand. They're fabric, and they just don't. They're not rigid like a leather bag would be, or as rigid as a leather bag. And so, or at least when they start out, so the bags kind of flop over, and then the stuff can fall out or whatever. And I was trying to figure out a solution for that. And then I realized that it came with a bag that's big enough that it can all fit in. So, I haven't tried this, but I think it'll work. If the bag was open, it would work. The other thing is, if you're ever wondering, for maintenance work, if you're large, like me, or if pants don't like standing up on you, there we go, perfect. And now my stuff doesn't want to fall out every 2 minutes. Worth it. Now Occidental doesn't come with that I know of anyway. Anyway, if you are ever wondering, I forgot what I was going to say now. Anyway, the Buckaroo belt was... Oh, that's what I was going to say. If you're ever wondering, my personal preference, being large, is not to wear a pants belt. I hate them. They're stupid. They're fine. The problem is that they are not great at doing their job, which is holding your pants up. You are constantly adjusting them. Suspenders are where it's at. They're not cutting off your gut, and they're it's really not very healthy to be wearing a belt. I don't know that it's like gonna really hurt you, but it's not good for your body to be constricted like that, which is why corsets are frowned upon. And so tight belts aren't really good for you either. Suspenders don't constrict you. Also, the way that it works, by the way, never ever use the clip-on suspenders. Use the button ones. You need what they call bachelor buttons, because no woman wants to see their guy with suspenders on or something. I don't know why they call them that, but anyway. You want the ones with the buttons. They don't slip off and take out an eyeball, which apparently has actually been known to happen with the clip-on ones. I mean, if the button ones fall off, it's not going to be, good either. But the button is literally a rivet, so it's probably not going to happen. The other ones, who knows? know what that's all about. Put that down here. I'm just cleaning off stuff right now. My goal for tonight, I don't think it's going to happen tonight, but my goal is to clean all this stuff off, get all the table saw stuff that's clean, put in this organizer. Everything in this organizer, put in some other one that isn't this one, because obviously. But anyway, if you, my personal preference for dance and tool belts and all that stuff, for my shape and everything, is suspenders for your pants and just the tool belt for the tools, not suspenders with the tool belt. I've got suspenders on it right now, but at some point I'm going to take them off and I'm going to try it with that. Based on what I've felt with it just that way, I think the belt alone is best. The Buckaroo belt is very wide. It's the back support, miner's back support belt. It's like 4 or 5 inches wide. It has absolutely no trouble holding up your pants, or not holding itself up and not constrict. I mean, it constricts you a little bit, but just to hold itself up. It's got felt built in, so you don't have to get the hip buddies or whatever thing that Occidental calls them. I talked about Occidental because that's like the go-to brand for everybody. I don't necessarily have anything against Occidental. They're just more expensive than Buckaroo. Although not, I don't know, it's not like altogether that much more if you bought exactly the same thing. But you can't really do that because Buckaroo doesn't offer electrician's bags, which is really annoying to me. They only offer, what is this even? Nothing, apparently. Okay, then it's trash. Anyway, they don't offer electrician's bags, which means that whatever you do, you have to buy somebody else's electrician's bags for exorbitant prices. $100 for a tool bag is, like one tool bag is exorbitant, guys. There is nothing about that that's worth $100. I don't care if it's handcrafted in the USA, blah, 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 whatever. It's leather and rivets. You know, I can't make it, but that doesn't mean it's worth $100, you know. I mean, I can buy a full-on drill. I mean, it's not made in America. It's not going to last more than 5 years, probably. But I can buy a full-on drill for that kind of money. You know. Although, that said, you probably can't make leather goods with a machine as easily as you can a drill. But anyway, that's my preference, is you wear the belt, not a pants belt, you wear suspenders, and you wear the tool belt alone. I think that's the most comfortable, because if you get stretchy suspenders, this is where this wouldn't work. The suspenders that the Buckaroo comes with are not stretchy. They are completely rigid. They're the same basic strap as what you use to pull your truck out. Completely non-elastic. The length is what it is. It's not going to stretch. And what that means is if you go up, you know, you set it to where you are and you move, it's going to be tighter or looser. It's not going to move with you. And if you go up above, your arms raise like an inch or two. Your shoulder does, because of how God made you and the mechanics of the thing. It raises, and if that is set to where it's supporting you down here and you go up here, it starts cutting off the circulation to your arms, which, I mean, I get that already just from raising my arms to the sky. So I don't need any help with that from the suspender. So I don't like that design. It's not really necessarily a flaw. I mean, if you used elastic on them, they would wear out a lot faster than non-elastic, because non-elastic isn't going to wear out unless you cut it or just wear through it, which isn't really likely. So because wide for spring. It didn't need a 4-foot box. Anyway, I don't know what I was gonna say now. Anyway, the trick to all that is if you want the stretchy suspenders, you're gonna have to get them someplace else. I don't know how well they would work to hold up, 20 to 30 pounds of tools. But if you want them, you're gonna have to get them someplace other than Buckaroo. I'm looking at like half of it, and all I can think of was Buck Knives. You're gonna have to get it from someplace other than Buckaroo because they don't offer stretchy ones. I don't know if anybody offers them. Again, thinking about it, it doesn't really make sense that they would, but who knows? Just because they'd wear out, and then you'd have to spend more money and everything. Now you could not make them, but you could buy stretchy ones. Welch makes button-on ones, and you want the button ones. You don't want the clip ones. They make button ones for just regular pants and everything that are fairly heavy duty, and they're really nice for that. I don't know how well they would work on a tool belt, but if you wanted to do it, you could just figure out some way of rigging that onto your belt, possibly with just bachelor buttons, and that would work really well. Again, I don't know, if you want to do that or not, but that's your department if you want to do stuff or not. I don't know how well this is going to work. Dump that stuff there again. This is just random stuff. There's a stinking socket in here. This is my... I know what that is. That's I don't want it anymore, so I'm going to put it in a box bucket. A bucket. That's what oh my goodness gracious thing. Okay. That one here. That there. There's piles and piles of dust in here. As expensive as they are, the DeWalt, it's not T-Stacks. I don't know what. Ow, my fingers. I don't remember what they call these. Tough boxes, I think. Tough System Organizer. The first gen, I don't know about the second gen. Second gen looks cooler, but I don't know. The first gen Tough System boxes and their T-Stack boxes, like basically any DeWalt organizer box is really, really nice. I really like them. They're not cheap, but if you can get them on sale, like they're probably my favorites. I think the Milwaukee ones are fine. The rigid ones, at least when I was looking at them when the Tough System was, a thing, or the first gen Tough System was a thing, the rigid ones weren't very good. They claimed that they were, but they weren't. The Tough System was by far a better design. Oh, that doesn't work. Does it work this way? A little bit, kind of. I don't know if that works or not. We'll see. Their bucket system in here is questionable. Very, very questionable. These like this. I don't really care how they're organized right now. It's completely empty. Here, that works. Okay, now to put parts and stuff. This is a scroll saw manual that is just lying around for no reason. And that's lying around for no reason. This, maybe you guys can have a chance of seeing stuff. This is a filter for my car, or my truck, cabin filter that I have never used, because there's literally no information that I can find on how to actually install it. I can't figure out where the places that it goes, so I can't do anything about it. Let's see if this fits in here. I don't think it's gonna. No, not a chance. I think I'm gonna go back through this thing and just start painting, which I hate doing. I'm just gonna start painting parts. Oh, this should be great. It's gonna be stuff that isn't labeled, I guess. I hope I labeled the. Oh, that's just wonderful. There's so many question marks and things that didn't get labeled. It's going to be very fun to put this saw back together. I probably ought to plug it in before I do that because highest setting bumper. Wow. Helpful. Rear trunnion screws. Those are well oiled. And slightly rusty. Oh, and there's sticky stuff on it. Wonderful. Back plate screws. That's rusted again. Are these actually rusted or just probably? I'm seeing a lot of rust on the bag. I don't see any on the actual parts themselves. So I'm going to guess that they lived, which is hopefully good because I did enough work on them. Front trunnion screws. I guess that goes there. Back plate screws. Miscellaneous, I guess? I don't know. Aluminum foot screws. Okay, well that's actually got rust on it for sure. That's going to go in there. Rear trunnion screws, I can go with that. I'm just going through stuff. The first time I did this, I did a lot better job of labeling things, and I actually put numbers on them. I systematically took it apart, numbered everything as I took it off, and I was able to put it back together. This time I'm like, oh, I'm an expert, I can do this. And then I waited almost a year to put it back together, and now we'll see if I can figure out how to do it again. Dust shield screws. Now, the good thing about that is I actually do have a manual. This is pretty obvious. This is the label. I'm going to just toss that in here. Yeah, in here. This is also very obvious. That goes there. That is several parts of the arbor. This is the arbor. I didn't put them in there, that's fine. This is a part that's not going to fit in here at all. Oh no, this is the arbor. Never mind. I don't know what that other thing is. Put that down there. Whatever rust removal stuff that I did actually worked. Apparently, on some of this stuff anyway, because it isn't rusty. What is this? Pillow? No, pillar assembly. Okay. I don't know what that is, so we'll put him in here. Obvious stuff. Elevator. Oh, yes. Put the elevator stuff with itself. The elevator being the part that actually elevates and lowers the saw blade. Raises and lowers the saw blade, I guess. Rear angle pillar screws. Okay, that's the angle thing. So that goes in there. This is the case to table screws. I don't know what that is. Again, labeling is an incredibly blade insert parts. Yeah, all one of them. Labeling is incredibly important, people. If you don't do it, there's just a random chisel hanging out, okay? If you don't do it, you're never going to find anything and figure out how to put it back together. That needs to be burring really badly. I'm hoping that all of the work that I did on this thing to de-rust... well, there's rust on that. that all of the work that I did on derusting things worked, but it didn't on that. I have to redo a lot of this, which is incredibly frustrating because I spent a long time cleaning this to have it just not work. Some of this stuff I don't think I did a very good job of cleaning, but my mom was asking about it. She's like, how long do you think it'll take to put it back together? I'm like, I don't know. Years? Got so much time put into it, you know, not so much money invested in it. I mean, I've got like $50 worth of, you know, bearings that I'm putting in it, but not so much money that I've actually spent on parts that are only useful for the saw, as much as just time and effort put into it, and then money that I spent to get stuff that I needed to work on the saw. So I've got 30, probably got $100 and some in chemicals and paint that I have well over probably 150 in chemicals and paint for the saw. Primer, metal, bare metal primer, or bare metal paint, primer that works on metal, fast etch and OSFO for etching the metal, basically killing the rust in my case. Not to mention rust converter and things to kill what rust I couldn't get with that. Just all kinds of stuff. And it's not so much that it's like, oh, well, I can't use that for anything else. It's just for the table saw, so much as it's like I spent a lot of money on this project that I wouldn't have otherwise. And so it's just kind of a frustrating thing to find out that, and you can't see it, but over here in this corner, I cleaned out a bunch of stuff. It's just kind of frustrating to find out that I spent that money and then the table saw is, you know, if I didn't finish it, would just be kind of a waste of money because I didn't actually do anything with it. Even though it's not really, like, I've got maybe a cup less OSFO than I did when I started. And, you know, maybe a quart, not even a quart, more like a pint less fast etch that I had. But it's like $50 for the fast etch gallon. It's another 30 to 50 for the OSFO. I don't remember what I spent on it, where I got it. I saw it for 30 at one place and I saw it for 40 at the other place recently. But who knows how much I spent on it. At Amazon. Amazon has good deals on some stuff and they've got a rip off on other things. Used stuff on Amazon, used books are dirt cheap. That is the best place to buy used books probably. If you're in college or whatever, try Amazon first, but also check with eBay. Those two places are the best place to buy books. I should know I was in college for 5 years, and that's where I got a bunch of books. I rented them first from the library, not the library, but the bookstore on the campus. That is an absolute racket. Do not ever go there for books unless you cannot find them anywhere else. And don't believe your professor when they say, well, this is only allowed, you can only find it here and here and here. No. You look, you scour the internet and see if you can find it. Now, be intelligent and look and make sure that you're getting it from a reputable place and not, Honest Owl's toy store that happens to be selling this book that's like $400 for like 10. It's either stolen or it's not the book and you're getting a virus or something. Just use your brain. But there are a lot of really good deals out there. The bookstore is not going to have them. To put that in perspective, I bought a book for a music class I kid you not, loose leaf, this thick. This is less than a half an inch, okay? This thick, loose leaf, no notebook, no nothing. It was literally, it just had a little bit of plastic around it, and you had to provide your own notebook. They had actually punched the holes in it, which was a bonus. Probably not worth the $110 that I had to pay for it. I dropped the class later. Never did get my money back because, oh, well, if it's opened, it's yours. Well, we can't take it back. So yeah, I was a little upset about that. I mean, I was upset that it was $110 to begin with, but especially that I couldn't take it back because I wasn't taking the class. Anyway, I don't remember that professor's name. Probably good because I'd probably get in trouble for saying his name and like marring his good image. Which, as I recall, the pictures of him, there was nothing good about that image. There was nothing good about that image. Anyway, dude, that class was. Let's just put it this way: when you're teaching kids, first of all, I am not a musical person. Now I can whistle. I like listening to music, but I don't know the first thing about music theory or anything. I did not want to take that class. It was basically that or an art class, and I was like, I hate art, so I don't want to do that. Not because I hate art, but because of what art has become at this point in time. And no, it's not some, ethical whatever, blah, blah, blah about it. All it is that pile of screws isn't art. It's a pile of screws. That's not art. It's a pile of screws. Just it's not worth $8 billion because somebody paid $8. No, that's a ripoff, and somebody was an idiot, and they paid $8 million for a pile of screws. That's why I didn't like the art thing. I've since kind of changed that. There is actually some of that's kind of I find interesting. Again, I don't think it's worth anywhere near what they charge for it, but whatever. Anyway, I actually did have an art teacher that I really liked. But anyway, that's beside the point. Actually, if you've ever been to a one of those like homeschooling really expensive toy shops where they have the educational toys that are like 40% more than all the other toys in the world and you can never afford them. There's actually a ball, I forget what it's called now. There's a ball puzzle thing. It can be any size, but it's like usually the ones that they sell there are like this size. They're plastic and it's like a maze. You have to get this ball bearing through the maze. The professor that I had was the guy that invented that. Like, this guy's like brilliant. And what was funny that I found out after, I don't remember if I told him about it. I don't think I did, but he actually put a piece of art on the school that I went to that was for the time capsule, that when I saw it the first time, before I knew him and before I knew that he was the one that did it, I told my parents I thought it looked like a ball of aluminum foil, because it really does from a distance. It literally looks like a ball of aluminum foil. It was actually a design that was, I think it's stainless steel or aluminum or something, that looks something like his little puzzle toy thing. I never did get one of those puzzle toy things. I think it was beyond my capacity. Now I could figure out how to do it, but I just don't have the patience or the the coordination to be able to actually do it and make it work. I totally get the idea of the thing, and I could probably solve the puzzle. It's just that actually getting that. It's like that little cup thing. You flip the ball to get it in there. Like I could never get those. But anyway, yeah, that was just one of those interesting things that you find in life where it's like, oh yeah, I know the guy that did that. Anyway, so I don't know what I was talking about before. Oh, that music professor. If you're gonna buy books, the bookstore on campus is not the place, unless it is something like that music book where you literally cannot find it anywhere else, and it doesn't exist on the internet. And what that usually means is that it hasn't been out long enough, or there hasn't been enough people. There haven't, rather, been enough people that are interested in pirating the book to actually, pirate it. And anybody that knows how a printer works knows how to pirate a book. That is, I won't tell you how I know this. I did not participate in the pirated book thing. Did not. But I will tell you from people that I know, pirated books are not high quality prints. Usually they're higher quality than the pirated books that professors find, because they are like, I don't know why. I've had professors that literally handed me photocopies of books that are barely out of the questionably out of the copyright period, that were such terrible copies of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photo. It's like, dude, keep the original and photocopy that. Don't photocopy the 4th generation of that on your terrible printer. I mean, I'm not kidding, like barely legible. Like they would have, it was so funny. I had math professors that did this for like relatively complicated problems, and then literally had to draw in a line for some of the lines that got completely cut off and whatever, like some of the angles and things, because the photocopy was so terrible that they had to do this in order for you to actually understand like what was going on in the problem. Like they had to edit the photocopy with a pen. It was like, dude, why don't you just draw the thing, or better yet, just actually give us a photocopy of the real book. Although if you've ever seen the original books on some of those, the printing quality was not up there very high. I don't know where that would go. Anyway, Amazon is really good for used books. They're very cheap, usually. eBay is very good for used books. That is frequently eBay. The difference between them is eBay is frequently either somebody that homeschooled or an individual that is selling the book. So they either got it from a bunch of their friends, or as like a business thing, and they know about the book generally, or they're a seller that specializes in that. Amazon, it's almost always just sellers that may or may not specialize in that. They could be, well, I shouldn't say that about eBay. A lot of this stuff on eBay is an individual. Some of it is something of an expert, type, oh, I do educational books, that kind of thing. Amazon is mostly just whatever wholesaler person that's involved in it. And it can be that same way on eBay too, but whatever it is, and they kind of sell it type thing, which is fine, but that's just a note. If you're wanting to get it from an individual, eBay is usually your best choice for that. I don't know what to do with half this stuff. My toolbox is buried down there behind you guys, or what you're sitting on, I should say. So that's not going to happen. That pick was over here. Well, that's buried, so that's not going to happen. I've gotten books that were probably $50 to $75 on eBay for like 10 or something. I mean, like new like maybe a year old or something, never out of the packaging type thing. Really cheap, because what people will do, especially individuals, is they'll do what I did with that music class and be like, hey, um, uh, I need to, take this class. Oh, I hate this class. I'm not going to take it anymore. And they sell it because they buy the books from the bookstore, and for whatever reason, they don't return them to the bookstore. And usually, honestly, if you buy a book from the bookstore, used or not, if you rent it or whatever, if you rent it, it'll cost you, I mean, depending on everything, something like $30 or something. If you buy it used, sometimes you can get it for like 40. Again, depending on the value of the book and everything. Mostly math books is where I know it from. But because other books I found at other places for way, way better prices. But, say the book is like $100 new from the bookstore. Used it might be 50 if you're lucky. And, to rent it is like 30 or something like that. And it's like, you look at it and it's like, well, I could get it used and then I own it and I can do whatever I want to do with it. If it's, I can write in it or whatever. If it's a rental, I can't do anything with it. And if it's new, it's just wasting a bunch of money, because honestly, the only way that somebody's going to destroy that, make that book, useless to you, is if they actually go in there with like a Sharpie or something and erase, color over stuff or somehow erase it or something like that. Nobody does. There are occasionally times when that happens, like somebody accidentally spills coffee on a page or something like that. You take a chance with it. The bookstore does not look through those. They do not look through those. They're like, oh yeah, this doesn't have any markings in it. And it's like, well, yeah, actually every page has markings on it, but I don't care. I hope that the guy's markings are correct, because I may or may not be going off of those, because you always look at those and then you're like, is this guy right? And you kind of do the problem. You're like, oh, okay. This guy's got, especially with like English books and stuff, if there's markings in it, you have to look at those, because some of the insights that the guy that had it before you has are really cool. Usually it's completely off the wall. This guy was like an English major or something, and he's coming up with all kinds of stuff that's not in the book. Romeo was really a spaceship and Juliet was Mars or something. That's not a real one, obviously, but not far from what an English major might come up with. Let's just say that. I met a lot of English majors, and I generally like them, but some of the things that they write, it's like, man, dude, I don't know what you're smoking that week, but that's some powerful stuff right there. Like, really, really powerful. It's, like, I'm trying to think what it was. It was, I had an English teacher. I really enjoyed his class, but he said some things about some books. I don't know if it was Ernest Hemingway. I don't think it was Ernest Hemingway. Was it Hemingway? I forget. It was one of those guys that's kind of gross or whatever. Like, writing about some book or something. It's about some like super, super inappropriate thing or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, well, he was writing about that, but he really meant something, about, life, and, it was really his way of like, showing their inner innocence or something like this. I'm like, dude, no, that is not what he was writing about. He was writing about something completely not innocent. Like, no, no amount of convincing is going to. I don't know what that's from. That's scary. No amount of convincing me is going to convince me that book is about anything other than what it is specifically about, you know. And it is about one thing, and that was all the author was thinking about for a long time, apparently, because there is some sick and twisted stuff going on in there. Anyway, based on what he said, I never read the books. I don't ever plan to, but yeah. Anyway, you know, some of the stuff, I don't know. It's just weird. I always had fun with the English classes that I took because I could kind of go with a little bit of writer's license with things and just kind of try and come up with some crazy scheme that was going on and get away with it and get an A on the thing because it was like, hey, I'm arguing for a thing. You know, I don't have to actually believe the thing, but I am arguing for it. I did usually keep it to something a little bit believable though. Anyway, okay, so I'm actually doing a little bit of good with this. I'm mostly just throwing it on the floor and the other side of behind the camera, but you know, that is the lid for this. So I'm just gonna put him over there. I don't know where my zip tie box went. There it is. That's what this is for. I've got so many zip ties. I think I got some a long time ago at Harbor Freight, and then I was like, hey, I might need, you know, I love zip ties. I'm going through them. Had gone through like 10 maybe. I'm like, hey, I should buy some more. I'm going through these things, and so I bought some more, and now I've got like probably 800 of them or something. I mean, which really isn't that much because if you buy the 500 pack, what is this? Nailed it. You buy the 500 pack, you've already got 500. You know, you buy a couple more, 100 packs or whatever. Now you've got 700. You buy this, that, and the other thing. Now you've got like 10 billion of them. And you don't know what to do with them because whatever. Anyway, that's how hoarding starts. By the way, if you don't want to become a hoarder, the solution to that is don't buy everything you see online. B, don't store everything that you have on the floor. If you organize it, you're not technically a hoarder, you're a collector. I think that's the way that they define those things. If it's on a shelf, you're not a hoarder. Oh wow, that is particularly not de-oiled. My goodness, de-rusted. Wow, that was way harder than it should have been. That one is really not de-rusted at all. This must have been the stuff I haven't cleaned yet. Apparently this is the non-existent... I don't even know what that is. I'm scared now. There's parts that I don't even know. The good thing about this, I will say, is there are manuals. Where did that come from? Well, that's scary. This is like half pink now. What is that? What weirdness is that? Oh, that's what that is. That's grease. That's fine. Whew, I thought there was some weird chemical reaction going on. Just grease that was pink. Technically the grease was red, but the towel was pink because of, anyway. So, anyway. I'm off on one of my tangent things again, as usual. This is the 2 drive belts. I'm just going to put them up there because I don't know what else to do with them. This is the back plate that I spent like 4 hours taking down to bare metal. That made me want to do this entire saw bare metal. I'm not going to do bare metal anymore. I'm actually going to hit that with some of that fast edge, I think. It's got a little bit more rust built up on it now. Excuse me. Oh, man. Okay, this is unclean stuff, so we're just going to put this here. Found the grease gun part that nobody was looking for. I'm gonna reach over in front of you there, and you get a Kleenex. It's helping clean up and at work, and they were dealing with leaves, and so now I'm dealing with allergies. Okay. So there's these parts to clean. And I'm curious how ancient this doorbell was. It seems extremely cheap, and QC02 past AD. I'm guessing that means it's from 2002. Based on the product quality, I would say that is probably accurate. Incredibly simple mechanism, so it probably would last anyway, but probably made in China in 2002. Or that's when they found it on the floor and picked it up and put it in a box, I don't know. Slapped the QC label on it because, you know, hey, we looked at it kind of out of the corner of our eye. Looks kind of like the doorbells that we make. And shipped it out to unsuspecting people. Putting doorbells on 1940s houses. Anyway. Okay. So this stuff is uncleaned, underusted. Or still rusty, rather. As is this thing that is particularly foul. Okay, so that's that. Now I just have to figure out what I'm going to do with it to keep it off of this workbench. Because the goal is to have a lot of this not here so that I can actually use the table saw if I want to. So, I think I want to put that in a bag or a box. I've got that box. Got that other box. Got the paint box, but I don't really want to put everything in that. I'm trying to find a sturdy box that I... Ooh, perfect. The recycling box that's also partly trash can. That's where we put it, because nobody's going to be doing anything with that. Isn't one of these broken? I thought I had one of these was broken. Oh, this is that other part. This is going to be expensive. I need 2 of these. I've got 1. I'm guessing the second one of these is going to cost as much as I paid for the saw, which was $50. So I've got... It's kind of funny. I've got literally 10 times... well, I shouldn't say literally because I haven't actually... I've lost count of how much I spent on it, but from last count and based on what I'm probably going to find, not counting man hours in this because there's too many of those to count, and I wasn't counting, so I have no idea how many there actually were. I've got about 10 times the price of the saw in tools and parts to restore the saw. Now, that doesn't mean that I actually am going to lose all that money when I sell the saw or whatever. First of all, I'm going to sell it dearly, if I do sell it, and because it is far, far and away better than it was when I got it, and it's worth, you know, a lot now because it's actually going to be restored and working and everything. I hope, because I hope the motor works. I hope that's not why they put it out in the rain and let it rust. If it is, we're in trouble. But anyway, actually, if it is, I'm just going to go buy a new motor or something, or just sell it as is and say, hey, it doesn't have a motor, you're going to have to buy one. And still sell it dearly. But, I don't know what to do with this thing. I guess I'll just put it down there and leave it. This is trash. By the way, for anybody that is curious, Kills mildew killing primer stuff, or not Kills, Zinsser. It might be Kills too. I don't know what it is. Where is the bottle? Zinsser mold killing primer is absolutely not the stuff that you want to put on your metal, your bare metal or cast iron. It is not going to keep the rust away. It actually makes it rust on its own. Or at least it doesn't stop the rust, and it completely lets the thing rust. So in either case, it's certainly not the stuff you want to put on bare metal, because it's going to make it rust or allow it to rust. Anyway, so I don't know what I was talking about before that, but I think I've said that several times on different videos about that Zinsser primer. It really is not good stuff. It's fine. It's fine. I will say this. It's okay for what it's actually for, which is putting on walls that are, have mold or whatever. I think it works on that, but it is not for metal. And obviously it's not for metal. It's mold killing. Mold doesn't really grow on metal, so duh. It wouldn't work on metal, but hey. Now we know it doesn't work on metal. Okay. This is a box of slingshot rounds. I don't know what to do with. So I'm going to drink a water, let that dry out, and then I'm going to put it in a water bottle. Okay, so now the question is where the rest of this is going to go. Actually, the question is where all the stuff on the floor is going to go, because that's the real issue at this point. Just real quick here, I'm going to show you what's going on here. This is the table that I built, 2 1/8 inch thick, or 4 approximately 1/2 inch thick pieces of chipboard, for a total of 2 1/8 inch thick chipboard top. Got a piece of 2 inch by 1/8 inch thick angle iron all along. It's 2 inch, L shape, 2 inches on either leg, and then 1/8 of an inch thick. 48 inches long. The tabletop is 48 inches long. So that's the top of the thing. I put it on a base that was free from work. This was essentially free because I bought it for a project years ago. I don't even remember what project it was. Never used it. Painted it. I used it for a ramp at some point to get something off of my truck or onto my truck, and don't know. It is now a tabletop. I basically cut the boards down, glued it together, trimmed it off so it was all basically vertical, and aligned to some degree. Glued it together, then did that, and then left it because it was already painted. At some point I was planning to paint it, but I actually found out that melamine is the king of all, well, except for stainless steel, is the king of all workbench tops. So I'm probably adding another layer to that at some point with a melamine board. Actually, there's quite a few of those at work, it just so happens, so maybe I'll be getting a piece of countertop for this. But anyway, got that. It's a great workbench right now, but I'm actually going to improve it by putting something on top that won't, get dissolved by the time Break Clean hits it, which is literally every paint, other than like epoxy, which isn't really a paint. So, except if it's actually epoxy paint, which, whatever, anyway. I think there's epoxy primer, and I don't know if that would work or not, but this has to be like 2-part epoxy to not get dissolved by Break Clean. So that's expensive. Like, that would cost more than the whole sheet of plywood that I have invested in this, or chipboard, especially in this day and age. Even at the price of this now, it would be more than this costs, because a gallon of that stuff is like $150. It's just stupid. But anyway, I have that. I've got a piece of stainless steel countertop that I also got free at a different job that goes on here. I don't know if it's a countertop or a shelf, but it's stainless steel, and it works great. That's what I do all my cleaning on and everything. That green, which doesn't really look green from here, but that green stuff on it is actually Duplicolor engine enamel. It gets dissolved by Break Clean very effectively. Not very, very effectively, because it's still got some there, but like pretty stinking effectively. Like if you hit it with Break Clean, there's green stuff coming off of that for a while. So it will eat paint, like good paint, because that stuff is not cheap. That's like $10-15 a can for a rattle can. So, and it's not a big rattle can either. It's like, this isn't it, but it's like that size, whatever that is. It's 12 ounces. I think you guys can see that. But anyway, it's like 12, 15 ounces, something like that. 10 or 12 ounces, really. But and that'll get dissolved by Break Clean. So that stuff is no joke. Like, don't get that in your eyes. Preferably wear gloves with it, because it ain't good for your hands either. Anyway, so this was basically a free table. It is now free horizontal space. But the plan I originally had for this was it was going to be all restoration stuff. Now it is just a pile of stuff. But I do have 3 things that I use for restorations, or 2. Got my grinder that's got a grinding wheel and a wire wheel on it, or rather a wire wheel and a grinding wheel. And then I have a bucket of evaporust on it right now. Nothing else on the bottom. And then I have my sharpening slow speed grinder up here. But the problem with that is it's got this big like table thing that's under it that's also wider than the table that way. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with that, if I want to just cut that piece of plywood. I don't want to refit it with something else, because it's just a pain. Literally took me like 5 hours to line these one-way jigs up with everything the way it's supposed to be. I lost the instructions. I don't want to ever have to do that again. The board is not worth saving to have to redo all that stuff on a different board. So that ain't going to happen. I'm either cutting the board or I'm not cutting the board, and I'm like doing something else with the table. But my idea for that was originally to cut that board, have this whole thing sit under here, and have the evaporust be someplace else or whatever. I kind of like the evaporust where it is. So what I'm thinking is one of 2 things. Either this shelf that's on the bottom, which is literally made out of slats from pallet chunks, essentially. I can either make that out of something else and elongate it to be 4 feet, and then this can go over here, and the other grinder can, or vice versa, the grinder can go here and this can go wherever it goes, which is probably the best thing to do. Or I can leave it the way it is, and this can just live up here. I add like a vise on wherever I need to have a vise, and whatever else I put on here. Probably a drill press at some point. And then this is my little restoration table. The problem with that is I still want this to be able to fit on it, because it's like the perfect everything for this. and a vise doesn't really fit on it if that's on there. So I don't know. I don't know what I'll do with that. But we'll figure that out at some point. Meantime, what I want to do with this is I do want to figure out what that's doing. And I think what I want to do with it is, what I was hoping to do with it is have all of the table saw parts that I can stored on this, because this is where all the action is going to be happening, as well as this yellow cart over here. That's where I clean all of the restoration stuff. That was the original restoration station. This is restoration station 2. That's on casters. This, I have those lifting casters. They're quick release or whatever. So you put quick release plates on this. Basically, if the wheel is up, this is stationary. There's no wheels on it or anything. It's fine. You press down on the caster thing. It lifts this up 3/4 of an inch, and it's on wheels, and you can do whatever you want to do. Now you have to do that with all 4 sides, which is going to be a pain. But it'll move, and you can do whatever you want to do with it. Again, the wheels are only like that big or whatever, so it's really not all terrain. This has 5-inch wheels. It is way going to be easier. They're better casters. They're better everything, except that it's always on casters, which isn't good for this because it's heavy duty stuff. So I don't really want it on casters. These can handle it for sure. They're like 600 pounds or something ridiculous rating per caster. This whole thing doesn't weigh 600 pounds probably. So those are fine. But I always overbuild stuff. I would have probably not been a very good engineer because I do always overbuild stuff. I hate it when I find out that something has a limitation because some idiot decided, well, in its current purpose. I have completely lost whatever train of thought I had. So sorry about that. I don't know what I was going to say about it because I don't even have a clue what it was. But basically what I'm wanting this to be is I'm wanting 2 grinders and the evaporust to fit on it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend that shelf. I'm going to be able to fit them down there. My plan for this at some point is to put melamine top on it, because I think that's going to work well. And be pretty decent. Meantime, I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to really worry about it because it's a workbench. I don't really care. It's not that big of a deal to me if it gets kind of chewed up or whatever. That was literally why I built it. In fact, there's some rust on the frame, which is steel and was sitting outside in the rain for a long time. Not because of me, but just because of life. There's rust on it, and it's like, do I care? This thing is, it's going to be beat up or whatever. It's going to rust anyway. I'm not really that worried about it. It was free. Now, I really hate saying that because I hate when stuff just dies because people don't take care of it, especially when that's preventable. I'm not a vegan or anything like that. Obviously, there's uses for things. I'm not saying that. Not saying that stuff shouldn't be disposable. Sharpening razor blades doesn't work. I've tried it. At least I can't get it to work. So I'm not saying that stuff isn't, disposable to some point. I'm just saying if you own a piece of equipment or something, you're abusing that thing and breaking it and then throwing it away is a waste. It was a completely functional thing at some point, and then you didn't take care of it, and it's dead now. And so that's kind of the way I'm thinking with this, is I really wish that it wasn't rusty, because I know that that's not going to be good in Midwest humidity. But I can't fix that. I don't have the equipment to be able to run paint or, pour 15 or whatever through the tubing, and this is open Like there's tubes that go this direction that are literally butted up against stuff. They've got holes in the middle of them. They're rusty. I can't do anything about that. I don't know if that would ever dry if I poured paint in it. I'm not going to do that. It'd just be a whole thing. I think the only way to do something like that would be like an electrolysis bath somehow. I have no idea. Probably an electrolysis bath and then powder coating or something like that. I don't know what they would do to it. I guarantee that the frame is not worth whatever that would cost to have done. And I certainly don't have the equipment or the time to do that. So, nor the money for that matter. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I don't like that, but when it dies and whenever it dies, I can either patch it up with new stuff, or more likely I'll have a welder by that point and I'll just be able to make myself a new one the right way. Which is not with tubing and not leaving it outside to rust and then, not doing it or whatever. And also putting some paint on it that doesn't get scratched by nothing and then rust. I don't know what this is. I think it's like the cheapest powder coat they could find, which didn't get inside, or didn't, really work. So, anyway, I'm trying to think what to do with all this stuff. I wanted my sharpening stuff on here too, but that will not fit. At least not in the current configuration. Maybe. See, that still won't fit. I think that would fit, but it's too wide. See, the issue is this board that this grinder is on is like 24 inches wide or something. The tabletop is 19, and that's like 14. And so this grinder is literally longer than the width, or wider than the width of that shelf. So if I turn it sideways, the feet that it's on are going to be on either side of the thing. It's going to be a pain. I was thinking if I turned that sideways, set it on top of this board that this grinder's on, both grinders could go over there, and then the evaporest could sit where it is. But the problem with that is I've still got this part of the one-way jig, and I'd have like 6 or 8 inches of the board that this grinder is sitting on sticking off an edge. Not really a big deal because it's not got any weight on it, but still kind of a problem. I don't think it's worth worrying about, though. I think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do that. I think that's what I'll do. Take this, put it down there, pull this guy off, and just set it back on top. But yeah, okay. So see if I can set you guys up and do that. I'll probably do a take 2 of this so that I don't run out of space on my phone. But I will come back to you guys with that. So, the other thing is my main goal on this is to get that cleaned up, but I'm going to have to clean this up in order to get all the parts for the table saw on this. So it's going to kind of get messy here for what I'm doing here. And by the way, the reason I'm doing all this stuff with this being like the grinder table is this grinder was way up there and the other grinder was way over there. I want them to be in an area where I can use them and where if I want one or the other, it is easy to take them off and put them up where I need them. It's not a hassle, which is kind of why I was wanting both of them on here. But this one being on that base, I don't want to deal with the base. So I'm just going to kind of store it down here. It's still going to be a little bit of a pain to deal with, but at least it's where I can get at it as opposed to someplace else. So I'll get that done and I'll see you in a couple minutes in part 2 of whatever this is, kind of Operation Clean the Shop. So this is Woodworker Royer out. I will see you in part 2.